Welcome to a new episode of The Journey. My name's Matt Griffith, and joining me today, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome into the studio Tahni Froudist, Executive Producer at the Flying Fruit Fly Circus in Albury. Tahni, welcome.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Really excited about this. I mean, it's an absolute gem of a place that we have here in our region at an extraordinary high level as well. But I can't make it all about the Fruit Fly Circus. It's about you and your work within it. So we always kick off by asking about your background and connection to the border. So where did it all begin for you?
Well, I moved here 10 years ago. Well, Anzac Day this year, it will be 10 years in Albury Wodonga. But if we go all the way back, I grew up in a tiny regional town in southwest WA, and then I went to a slightly bigger city for high school, and then I went to a capital city for university in Perth, and then I went to an even bigger city and worked in Sydney, and then I've started my slow retreat. I moved from Sydney 10 years ago to Albury, and I've been here ever since.
And is it like a... I mean, this might sound a little corny, but is it like a reconnection with some part of your soul because you were born and bred in a small country town?
Absolutely. I think it's obviously a beautiful setting, beautiful environment, a slower pace of life. And I think just being able to get out and in 5 minutes be in a kind of rural environment is just something that is so settling for my soul. Definitely.
Yeah. I moved here when I was about 30 when I moved here, and it was 2006. And I thought I'd only stay here for a year or two, but it's turned out to be the place that I really wouldn't want to leave, because I don't know if you find this, but it does work its way into your heart, this place. Absolutely.
And I think, it helps that I met my partner a year after moving here, and since then we've had 2 kids, and really, she's from here. She was a fruit fly as a student. So we've both got this deep connection now to the cultural fabric of Albury Wodonga, and can't really imagine living anywhere else, because we have there's so many good things. You get the benefits of kind of city living, but also the benefits of a regional environment.
So true. Are you thankful to be raising kids here compared to potentially raising them in Sydney?
I have friends with kids a similar age to mine, and I actually don't know how they do it. Not only, the cost of living, et cetera, just the rat race of getting around and all of it, finding a shopping centre, all of those things. I think my kids are probably not going to know how extraordinarily lucky they are to live here and have a big backyard to run around in and all of those things, So you moved here specifically for the fruit flies? No, for Hot House Theatre, actually.
Oh, it was for Hot House.
Yeah. So I had been a theatre producer for a major theatre company in Sydney, and was kind of felt quite keen to kind of that next level up into management. And Hot House Theatre were looking for a co-CEO general manager, and asked me to come down. So I did that for 3 years, just on 3 years, and then decided that I wanted to get back closer to actually making the work. So left Hot House to pursue an independent career as a freelance independent producer. And at the same time, Richard at the Fruit Fly reached out and said, look, we can give you a day a week helping on some particular things. Richard had done it all before that, being the CEO and the producer and and so I joined, and then I've slowly built that role into a full-time role in the executive, and I do a little bit of independent work when something takes my fancy, but not really. Yeah.
And here's where it gets dangerous, because the whole of our chat could be focused around the fruit fly specifically. But for those that don't know, I mean, most people do. For those who don't, can you explain the Fruit Fly Circus, what it does, how it does it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's call it the Fruities, because that will make it easier. Less of a tongue twister.
True. It always gets me in the end.
But the Flying Fruit Fly Circus is Australia's national youth circus. We're a circus school and a producer of contemporary circus works that tour the world for family audiences. So how that works is kids between the age of 8 and 18 audition, and if they get into our select entry academic school in Wodonga. and also our training program. And so they train up to 20 hours a week as well as attend their schooling with us, and across all sorts of different circus skills and disciplines: juggling, handstands, trampoline, aerials, all sorts of things. And then when we make shows, they come out of school and rehearse full time, and then we tour. So we're just about to kick off a tour to 11 regional venues across New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland and the Northern Territory. We've just come back from an Arts Centre Melbourne season. So really our job is to train the next generation of circus artists, and we've been doing that here for 45 years this year. So there's no other school like us in Australia. So you can get your Cert 3 in circus arts, you graduate high school, all while being a Fruit Fly student, and then you can graduate out into the industry and go off and perform with the world's best circus companies, or you can go off and be a doctor or a physio or a teacher or a parent. And we have kids that have chosen all sorts of different outcomes, obviously, for their lives, probably some of which you've interviewed for this podcast. You never know.
Yes.
There's lots of Fruities out in Albury Wodonga.
There are. There really are. They pop up everywhere. Yeah. Okay. Last question, maybe on the Fruities for the moment, at least. Why is it not in Sydney? Why is it not in Melbourne? Why is it not in the capital city? Why do we have the honour of having it right here in little old Albury Wodonga?
Well, way back, really, in 1979, there was this huge influx of money, really, to make this region decentralise, make this region really attractive to people moving here from the cities. And some circus people came and, the Murray River Performing Group started, and they brought some circus people and they ran a summer school. And at the end of that summer school, they put on a show, and they called the show the Flying Fruit Fly Circus because, of course, we were on the border with the customs point, the fruit flies, etc., etc. And I think that doesn't necessarily mean that a circus school is going to pop up in any regional location, but there was just something about that time, about those artists that came here, and the love and desire in the community for something for kids that meant that they kept doing little circus things. And then they brought some acrobats from China and made incredible works. And really that period of time, the kind of late 70s to early 80s, was the birth of contemporary circus in Australia. We did have, of course, the Ashton Brothers circuses and those traditional circuses that toured around with big tops, but we didn't have our own unique flavour of Australian contemporary circus. And it was the same year that Cirque du Soleil started, for example. So there was really something happening internationally. And I think when you're investing that in kids, there is something about it being kind of isolated, that it breeds innovation when you don't have to be so connected to everything else happening in those capital cities. And really there's no reason that it's here in particular, but I think we're very, very lucky that it is here and what it has done to the kind of cultural fabric of this place. And of course, that same company, the Murray River Performing Group, was also the birthplace of Hot House Theatre. So Hot House Theatre and Flying Fruit Fly Circus, these two kind of professional institutions of this region, started from the same birthplace, that same time period, and have really created this world in this regional location where professional artists can come and live here and have a kind of fruitful career. And I think that's just really amazing. Certainly why I'm here, obviously, having worked at both places.
Yeah.
But there's just something about, obviously, being close to Canberra and Sydney and Melbourne is quite useful too. We're on that track of people popping in to say hello and staying for a week maybe. But I think it needed to be here, and probably we wouldn't have such a diverse circus community in Australia if it was only in capital cities.
Yes.
In terms of access. Yeah.
This might be a little bit of a shameless kind of question because I'm after a particular answer here, and I hope you give it to me. Would you say that Albury Wodonga has one of, if not the most thriving artistic scene for the size of the regional centre? I mean, do you see this kind of, obviously not the fruit flies, but, what's Wagga's scene like, or Bendigo's? I mean, how do we compare?
Oh, well, I will say Wagga and Bendigo have amazing regional cultural communities too. But I do think that Albury Wodonga I think there must be something in the water, actually. Must be the Murray, right? There is absolutely a really thriving cultural industry across all different art forms. There's something about so many people that have grown up here, have gone off and had incredible careers, and lots come back, of course, to have their kids or to share what they've learnt. I think that we do something really special here. And you should, I think what we need to remember is to keep that going. We have to go and support those things. We have to go and buy tickets to the shows or go to Mama and see the exhibitions, because all of those times that we show up, that all gets reported back, and that really proves that we love it and we want it to keep going for the next generation. Yeah,
don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to you now specifically and growing up, because when did the spark of the arts fire inside you? How old were you in this? What was the town in WA?
It's called Balingup. It's inland, about 3 hours south of Perth.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty isolated. When it comes to Australia, I mean, Australia's generally...
I think there were 500 people, so yeah.
isolated to begin with, but that's extraordinary. So talk me through when you really started to focus on the arts.
Oh, well, my mum was a teacher, primary school teacher. My dad was a musician. So I've always said that in terms of being an arts manager, I've always had that kind of passion for the arts and passion for lists and getting things done, which comes from my mum. And so really forever, I always thought that I would, I used to say I want to be famous, but now I know famous people and I'm not sure that that's life is for me. But I definitely always thought that I would be in the arts. I was a big singer, played the violin and cello, always volunteered for drama and did lots of things. And so I think that was a real hobby of mine and passion growing up. And then I decided to do arts management at university at the West Australian Academy of Performing Arts. And that's really where I learnt the tools of my trade.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenging career path. I mean, it's always generally considered fairly unstable in terms of work opportunities, and it's not like working 25 years in an office, that kind of thing. So what are some of the particular and unique challenges that you've found in your journey?
Well, I've been really lucky. Obviously, there's a lot of investment in arts organisations and institutions, from audiences, governments, private donors, things like that. And so I have had basically an office job for my career at various places. I think... So where I get my passion from is that I really want to help artists. I see these incredible artists, and it's always about making, I want to help them make their vision a reality. So I really see myself as like this underpinning support to make things happen. And that doesn't come without its challenges, of course, finding the money, finding the space, finding the time, I honestly think like arts workers can stretch a dollar much further probably than any other sector, like it's just incredible what you can achieve. And sometimes that means that we're asking a bit too much to be sustainable of people, of their time. Certainly a challenge of mine has been to find that balance, to have a life outside of work. And I think that comes when it's kind of this vocational pull towards your work. When it was a hobby, it was something that was extra to who I was as a child, and then as it becomes your job, it's almost your whole identity. So that's certainly a challenge, but of course with the challenges come these like incredible benefits, incredible opportunities, and I wouldn't change anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, it can become all-consuming. Yeah. The arts, like sport, in a lot of ways as well. So, how have you found the balance with kids, especially? Because I mean, you can make it all-consuming when it's just you, and even you and a partner. But having kids on top of that can make it difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kids would have done that anyway. But of course, my experience with a 3 and a 1-year-old is having kids in a pandemic, which kind of stopped things anyway. So that has certainly helped me reset some boundaries, or given me a bit of time to try and find the balance. And obviously, I'm not perfect. but I want to be with my family, and so that sometimes comes with a bit of, I also want to go and see shows, and really that is the thing that is limiting here. In Sydney, you can see 20 different shows every single night of the week. And in Albury, I try to get to everything because I can. So then if I want to see, I'm going to go to Adelaide Fringe in a few weeks' time and see as many shows as I can in 5 days. But that is 5 days away from my family. You can't always drag everyone with you to different states and cities. But I think it's a family environment at the Fruit Fly, perfect place to kind of work while you're raising a young family. So the kids are in circus. My wife works there too, where it's a family affair.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm going to ask you an impossible question, and it just popped into my head, and now I'm really intrigued. Sydney versus Melbourne, which one is better for arts? Bang.
Ooh. Oh, I haven't worked in Melbourne very much, and I know that it's definitely different.
Yes.
And it's changed since in the last 10 years as well. But I will always have a place in my heart for Belvoir Street, 25 Belvoir Street, Surrey Hills, New South Wales. There is something special happening there. That, and I've just come back from Sydney last week, and the work that they've done down at the wharf with all of the piers, where Sydney Theatre Company and Bangara, and to have that kind of cultural infrastructure and everyone working so close to each other, there's something pretty amazing there.
Yeah. Sydney for the win.
Yeah, I think today I'm going to say that.
What would you consider to be your biggest achievement? I know this is hard as well because we hope that we've got more than just one big achievement, but do you have any standout?
Oh, look, so many. I've just worked with some incredible artists over the years. Certainly being able to take a work to New York, or the same work we took to Taiwan, Toronto, Adelaide and New York, a 24-hour work called The Second Woman. That was amazing. You don't think that the work that you do is going to get to those kind of world stages.
Yeah. And then, what was that, if you don't mind me?
Yeah, so the work was called The Second Woman, and it was a 24-hour installation work, live theatre installation work, where different people came into the space and interacted with the actor on stage every 5 minutes for 24 hours. Wow. So we were all up for that length of time. That work, I didn't make that work. Those artists are incredible. But that was a real privilege. And obviously, you have to say New York's the highlight, right? But then I would say more locally, the work that we've done at Fruit Fly recently has just been, it's an amazing team, so privileged to work with such great people. We just opened a theatre, which you can't, it's crazy to think you can build a theatre in 8 months, but we did it. And the Vaudeville Festival, I think, starting 10 years ago, has really become a large part of what I do at Fruit Fly. And last year's festival, which had 3 independent works as well, so not Fruit Fly Circus works, but they all had a connection to Fruit Fly. So they all had Fruit Fly graduates in them, or people that have worked with us a lot. And it really felt like a festival, and the community really came out. Beautiful aerial work in the amphitheatre behind Hot House at Gateway Village. To see your local community come out and support the work that you've kind of brought together and these incredible artists, there was just something that was just a real highlight of my career, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Do enough people experience the arts? Is it a battle to try and get people to... Because I do imagine for certain people it can be tough to navigate your way through art sometimes.
Yeah, I think to start with your first question, I think we probably all do experience the arts, right? So we might read a book or watch TV, and there's a whole industry behind those things that you probably don't think of when you're picking up that book at the library or buying that book or watching Home and Away. That's a whole sector of people, and all these people that have studied and worked. And so I think we all do engage in the arts. In terms of the live performing arts, of course, it's our job to make audiences want to come. And we all live in this environment now where the cost of living is really biting. You have to make decisions with your dollars. Like, you might buy a ticket to go and see Taylor Swift, but that is all of your kind of cultural dollar for that year, maybe. Because that also, particularly if you're living here, that's also accommodation and food and travel and things like that. And so it's our job as companies making work and trying to get people to come to our shows to make it like not only attractive, whether it's the content or whether it's fun or whether it's interesting or educational or whatever that is. But also we are competing, I think, as in terms of like, spend your dollar, come and see our show, which will mean you won't be able to see that show. So I think the more that we can make it accessible, and there are some great companies doing incredible work with, private donors that can make it more accessible so that young people can see work. And I think that's the important thing. We've always got to get young people in so they can understand what a difference to your life it can make to see yourself reflected on stage. And certainly that's what makes the Fruit Fly so special, is that our shows feature young kids on stage at a really high level. So when you come out of the theatre after seeing a Fruities show, there's always kids like flipping off the stairs and doing, we try to make it safe. But I think that inspiration piece of like seeing your life, seeing what you might have been able to do or might be able to do is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry, long way around there, but I think...
no, you've explained it beautifully. And as you were talking about kids there, you're around kids all the time. You see and hear their hopes and dreams. Going back to when you were a kid, have you realised your own hopes and dreams that you had back then?
I think so. I think, there's always more that you can do, but I think I'm working in the arts. I have a family that I love that loves me. I have an incredible job with people that make me laugh. And I mean, most importantly, I get to see, these young kids try their best, learn to fail, keep going, and then go off into the world. Like, what a privilege. I don't think you can really ask for much more than that, really.
Yeah. Are they inspiring to work around?
So inspiring. I mean, some of them are quite annoying, but like, who isn't? But yes, they're absolutely inspiring. I think it's such a privilege. I was saying to a parent the other day, I always treat them as peers because, in a couple of years' time, they're going to be out in the industry and they will be my peers. They're my colleagues as much as we're kind of teaching them and giving them an environment to learn what their trade is going to be. But the way that kids can access their own creativity without any filter is something really special. Like, the things that they come out with is just incredible. So I think circus as well, that kind of creative, crazy environment really brings that to the fore as well.
Yeah. Now, of course, life is also full of some tough decisions as well. What do you consider, your toughest decision that you've made?
I think there are certainly lots of, it could be moving here and change, but I think that all worked out for the best. There's nothing I would change. The having children process as a queer woman is difficult, like it is challenging, and it brought up some health issues throughout that process, so it was a bit longer than possible. And so I think probably I made the right decision by just going to have kids, because that actually I'm fine, which is great. But I think that was probably a little bit scary at the time, to just know what the right thing to do is. And, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually know at that point of time if I was making the right decision. But now I have two beautiful kids and we're all healthy and having a great life. So that was the right decision, actually.
Oh, that's terrific. You said earlier as well that you wouldn't change anything, but have there been a number of those sliding door moments where you think, if I took that little door, I could be...
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to think about what your life might look like, right? So, when I was choosing what to do at university, I had arts management as one of them, and I had European studies at UWA as my other choice. And I'm like, what would life have looked like if I had gone down that kind of rant. I don't even know why it was on my list, but I just remember that that's what I'd picked. What would life look like? Would I be in politics? Would I speak another language? Would I be living in Europe? I don't know. So there's certainly those moments. And of course, like saying yes or no to different jobs might have changed a different outcome. There's nothing where I specifically know that that was the moment that, changed my life.
Yeah. And no regrets.
No regrets.
No, and that's as important as anything. I think living with regret would be really difficult. Now, thinking ahead, the next 5-10 years, I mean, are you going to stay with the Fruities?
I think so. It's just such a great place to work. And it's so intertwined with our life, of course, because it's so much of my partner's history as well. And I love it here. I love the region. I can't really imagine working anywhere else. There's so much in store for Fruit Fly. It's really fun to think about what it might look like in 5 years, 10 years, or, the next 45, 50 years as well. Of course, I'm not going to be there that long. And, 5 to 10 years, my kids are going to be 11 and in 10 years, 11 and 13 or something.
Yeah.
So that is crazy to think about.
Will you be disappointed if they don't? I mean, okay, maybe not specifically the Fruities, but what if they don't decide to become involved in the arts, for example? Would you be a little bit disappointed if they don't?
No, look, not really. My parents always said, you can be anything you want to be, Tahni, just don't be an accountant. Of course, I topped accounting in high school and I really enjoy accounting. So I think similar, I mean, I don't really mind what my kids do as long as they are healthy and happy. I think they'll obviously learn to enjoy the arts from having parents that are into it. So they just go and see shows and they do circus. But I think circus is also this physical activity. And so, I hope that they keep physically active and do sport if it's not circus or things like that. So, do whatever you like, right? It's not my life, it's theirs. Yeah.
What would you say to parents about the importance of getting their kids involved in the arts on some level?
I think whether it's as an active participant or as an audience member, it's so important because I think it just opens up another window to the world. So circus is this beautiful, as I said, balance of kind of physical and creative. And so I think that's why we get such a diverse range of people and families coming through our doors. But I think whether it's having a love of reading or performing or being active in circus or sport, I think it's just about having all those doors open to your child to find out who they are, and it'll put them in good stead to kind of engage with a diverse world that we live in.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like your parents really did that for you.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
Yeah. Are they still in the town?
No, Dad actually moved to Walla Walla just
wow.
before 2018. So he's really close, which is lovely. And my mum's in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So my sister's in the UK. So we have a bit of everyone's kind of close except for my sister, who I keep every time she comes back for a holiday.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, look, here's some jobs that are in the region, and they love it here too. So yeah.
And when was the last time you were in? Sorry, I've forgotten the town name again.
Oh, Bailing Up.
Bailing Up.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were in Bailing Up?
A long time. I actually couldn't remember exactly. But my extended family are all in Perth. So we go back to Perth every now and then. I've been back once or twice since the pandemic. But
yeah, it's too far away.
It's a bit far.
They've got that chip on their shoulder as well about the East Coast.
Which I think is Perth. Fair enough. Perth has got everything it needs to have.
It does. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Absolutely. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
We've tweaked our wrap-up questions. That we have instead of just 3 simple questions to finish this off. But I love this one. This is tweaked. We haven't done this one before, so you get the debut of this. If you had to recommend 3 things, could be quirky, could be fun, whatever, for people who are coming to the border for the first time, maybe for a visit or whatever, 3 things that you recommend they experience and try.
Okay. Well, look, I can't promise that they're too quirky, but I'm going to assume that everyone's looked up if there's anything on at the Borderville Theatre or Flying Fruit Fly Circus are performing anywhere. But also you can pop in. So our building is generally open Monday to Saturday with different training happening. So you can actually come in and see our world-class training facility.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And watch training. So people do that. It's amazing. If we catch someone that seems a bit random in the foyer, we'll always stop and have a chat and tell people what's going on or who we are and that kind of thing. So I do think a lot of people in Albury Wodonga, like they know who the Fruities are. Like they know that the circus exists, but they sometimes drive past that building with the big sign on it, opposite Noriel and go, what is that really a circus? What? So I think like just come in and check it out. And now we've got this beautiful theatre as well. There'll be lots of opportunities to come and have a look. So certainly that, of course. The things I love to do, and they're a bit boring, but also just like lovely and give people a connection to what else we have to offer. I take people to Harris Farm for a pizza, Meraki for a coffee and something to eat. I love the weir. I don't know what it is about that. There's something about the water in this region that is just so powerful. So I know that that's where everyone would take visitors, but it is just, I think it's a really moving spiritual experience for me. So I like to share that.
Yeah.
And, just walking up some of those mountains and around the region and having a look. Out at Walla Walla, Morgan's Lookout. I don't know if everyone goes there.
Oh, it's so
but
good.
Mad
Dog Morgan.
Yeah, it is amazing. And
really is.
Even the kids, I've got young kids, but they love it. And we are kind of quite risk happy, I guess. Like we're happy for the kids to kind of go off on their own. Not on their own, but, explore.
Yeah.
And they love it there too. So that is an amazing place, just like half an hour out of town.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Not enough people really bring that up. But the first time I went there, I almost couldn't believe it. It was that this is just extraordinary.
And the facility, there's just something so, it has really been set up for visitors too. It's a magical place.
Yep,
Yeah,
agreed. Oh, well, there were 3 wonderful ones. That was terrific. Sweet or savoury?
I think I have to say sweet, but it changes the older you get.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, moving towards savoury. Yeah.
And finally, this is a traditional question we always like to finish up on. Do you have any recommendations for us, whether it's something you're reading, watching or listening to? I'm expecting big things out of this question.
Well, I would say, so if you were lucky enough to see Prima Facie at Hot House last year, amazing one-woman tour de force performance, like incredible work. That has just come out as a book. So everyone check out Prima Facie by Susie Miller. It's pretty amazing, and we should be supporting Australian writers and Australian female writers as well. Definitely recommend that. I would also recommend, this is random, Three Pines, I think it's called, on Amazon, I think, is fantastic, set in Montreal, crime thriller. Very into crime thrillers. Don't know why. Really recommend that.
Oh, terrific.
And you've missed it in Australia, but just in case we have any friends that live in the UK, I'm going to say everyone recommend to anyone you ever can to go and see Dorian Gray. It's a live theatre experience that uses film techniques live on stage. One woman doing the entire book of Dorian Gray.
Wow.
It is, I think, genre, form changing. Like I think it actually changes what theatre can do and be for us going forward into, generations. So if you have any friends or family in the UK, please recommend them go and see that. The UK version has Sarah Snook, who is the Australian award-winning actress that has been, oh my gosh, I've forgotten what it's called. What is that TV show with the
Google it.
Yeah.
Googling as
the family that are like the Murdochs that run the TV show. It's just finished.
Sarah
this
Snook.
is Mum Brain.
Yeah, I know Sarah Snook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah Snook, Australian actress, Succession.
The Succession. Thank you, Succession. Yes. Yep. Anyway, she's going to be in it, and honestly, incredible. If you happen to go to London, go and check it out.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
There is actually one final question, because I didn't ask you this. What are you working at the Fruities next? Like and what's your exact
Matt, what aren't we
involvement?
working on?
Yes.
Well, I'm the executive producer, so I'm talking to venues, contracts, budgeting, finding designers, just really laying all of that skeleton of work so that then the artists can actually make the work.
Yes.
We're just about to hit the road with our show Tempo. So locally that will perform in Wangaratta and Wagga Wagga. We'd go to like Griffith and Bendigo, Alice Springs, all sorts. So that is a really wonderful show. And we just launched on Friday. Our next major new work, Big Sky, will premiere at the Wodonga in August, and then we'll head to the Sydney Opera House. So
amazing.
That's going to be a beautiful work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tahni, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We're all so proud, and we certainly should be, about the Flying Fruit Fly Circus. Tahni Froudist, Executive Producer, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a fascinating journey.
Thanks so much for having me.